Being an anime fan in America in the early 2000s was rough, not only because getting access to the shows you wanted wasn't always easy, but also because you were bullied at school. If it wasn't dubbed, you could be relying on fan translations, but if you were making fan translations, you had to worry about Miami Mike and what he did at DragonCon. Often, when anime was dubbed officially by a studio that had a license, it wasn't always the best translation or even a direct translation. And one show that was at the center of dubbing controversy was Sailor Moon. But today we're talking about Card Captors.
Card Captors, a mystic adventure. Card Captors, a quest for all time.
Card Captors is an anime series that originally aired on Kids WB from 2001 to 2002. It's a story about a young girl named Sakura Avalon as she accidentally unleashes the power of the magical cloud cards onto the world. The cloud cards are based on tarot cards, but don't follow the same naming convention. Instead, they're all named after a mystical power and all have a physical manifestation that can be caught or captured. Sakura is guided by Kiro, a once mighty warrior who helps her realize her potential as a card captor as she lives her life as a middle schooler. Card Captors is an adaptation of Card Captor Sakura, the anime based on the manga Card Captor Sakura. Holy sh**. And while Kids WB tried to market the show as a boys' action show similar to many of the shonen anime that were becoming popular in the West at the time, Card Captors is categorically not that. In fact, most of the focus of the show is Sakura's school life and romantic interest in an older boy. However, Kids WB certainly tried to make it seem like something it wasn't, changing episode airing orders, downplaying the romance, and overselling the show's action in its marketing. Card Captors is a different show, but it's a show that many people grew up with. This video will only be focusing on Card Captors, and while I may revisit the series and look at some other aspects of the franchise at some point, right now I really only want to focus on the English adaptation. I remember watching Card Captors growing up. I remember certain episodes pretty vividly, and I remember looking through the actual physical cloud cards, but I don't really remember whose they were. But I wouldn't say I was a huge fan of Card Captors. Not because I didn't like the series, but because I didn't make sure to watch it every time it was on. So let's take a look back on Card Captors and refresh my memory a little bit. But first, today's video is sponsored by Verve. Head out to vrv.co/Billiam to get a 30-day free trial of Verve Premium. I've said this once and I'll say it again, but between my girlfriend and I, Verve is the most used streaming platform in our apartment. Between Crunchyroll, Cartoon Network's Boomerang, and even things like Curiosity Stream, Verve is my go-to place to see something interesting. Verve is available on a wide variety of streaming devices and offers a great selection of curated content, including the original version of Card Captor Sakura in beautiful HD with both subtitles and a remastered dub from a few years ago. So if you want to check out Card Captors after this video, I strongly suggest you go to vrv.co/Billiam and check out the original version of Card Captor Sakura right there. Thank you again to Verve for sponsoring this video. The state of anime translation is much different today than when Card Captors came out. While both dubbed and subtitles have certain phrases changed or edited to make the cultural gap smaller, it's not really done in spite of the original material, at least for non-children's anime. I'm arguing that Card Captors is an adaptation of Card Captor Sakura, and like all adaptations, it deserves to be judged on its own. So if I say a character's English name, or if I pronounce the name the way it was pronounced in the English version, please don't leave a comment down below complaining about it. Or do, that drives up engagement, and I would really appreciate it. Now, while it would be fair to call Card Captors a Monster of the Week show, it doesn't feel like most shows in that category. For one, much more of the focus is put on the lives of the characters than the monsters, and for two, some of them are just too cute to be called monsters. Not that Mike Wazowski isn't cute, but just look at this! Sakura in this version is a feisty preteen who initially lacks self-confidence. She's guided by Kiro, a once powerful guardian warrior created by the magician Clow Reed and meant to protect the Clow cards. Now if you look closely, Kiro is actually a ditto. Real Kiro looks like this. At first, Sakura doubts her ability to catch the cards, but as the show continues, she gains the confidence she should have and even holds her own against people who've trained their whole lives in the magical arts. Sakura lives with her older brother Tori and her dad. Sakura's dad. a professor in archaeology at a local university, which is how the Cloud Card book ended up in Sakura's house. Sakura's mom died when she was very young. Satori and Sakura often have to take on a more active role within their family in order to help out their dad. Sakura's dad is very sweet, but super busy, so isn't always around, and Tori is kind of a jerk. But it's only in an outward capacity. He's always there to help Sakura out, will defend her if he has to, and will even do nice gestures for her just because he wants to.
Here, take it. It's yours.
Thank you, Tori.
Tori's best friend is Julian, an older boy who Sakura may or may not have a crush on. While that's overtly obvious in the original version, the English adaptation changes a lot of dialogue to make it less obvious. But the scenarios the characters are put in still points in the direction of a crush.
Now, I may have missed a line here or there, but I definitely think the romantic subplot is subdued in the English version because this isn't a romantic show, it's an action show for boys.
While Kiro is Sakura's sassy guide, Sakura's best friend is Madison. Madison is one of the few that learn of Sakura's identity as a card captor. But she's also like super rich and super creative, so she makes Sakura a new outfit for every single card they have to capture, and she films scenes of Sakura capturing cards to put on her website. But you know, it's still a secret that Sakura is a card captor. Actually, you know what? Trying to get seen online is really difficult, so I believe that it can still be a secret. The dynamic between Kiro, Sakura, and Madison is great. I also love the idea that Madison makes Sakura's outfits to make her home movies more interesting, because it's a fun way to justify the sometimes ridiculous outfits that you'd see in these shows. Plus, you know, you gotta have that YouTube hustle.
Madison managed to combine a fresh, pretty color with high-tech equipment to give Sakura an overall stylish yet practical look. What a talent!
And Kiro is just the best. Wanna know how much I like Kiro? After a few episodes in, we're introduced to Lee, a descendant of Cloud Reed who thinks that he should be the one to recapture the cards instead of Sakura. Lee is a great addition to the show. He's super cocky and confident out in the field, but socially he's really timid, shy, and awkward. Next, we're introduced to Mei Lee, a friend of Lee's who's aware of the Cloud Reed tradition but has no magical powers of herself. Mei is very jealous of Sakura, especially because she has magical abilities, which is something she has in common with Lee.
Hey! That cloud card should have gone to Lee, you know!
She tries to help out capturing cards, but more often than not, she ends up getting in the way. While the episodes themselves sometimes have similar plot beats, the show is definitely not formulaic. Often a cloud card won't reveal itself until the end of an episode, and in other circumstances, the cloud card may be causing trouble behind the scenes of an episode, but won't be directly faced until the end. To say Card Captors is an action show would be misleading. While there is action happening sometimes, it's more adventurous action than violent action. There's rarely fights that happen between cards and the cast of the characters, but that's just because of the nature of the card abilities. I mean, how do you fight a maze? They try. Usually card captures play out a bit like a mystery. The first step is just discovering which of the cards is making odd things happen. Then it's just a matter of getting close enough to it for Sakura to use her Cloud Key to recapture it. Once a card is captured, the owner can use the card's powers in order to help them catch other cards, and eventually, Sakura learns how to use the power of 2 cards at once. God forbid she figures out how to use 5. I think one of my favorites is the time card. Sakura and Lee discover they're in a time loop and have to figure out what's causing it to stop it. I also like the shot card episode because it's this odd gun allegory, and it's just like someone has a gun, but they don't know it's a gun. And then I love the dash card episode because it's just this super cute little animal who just wants to help some dorky girl win her track meet. It's great. But then there are episodes where a card isn't captured, like when Sakura and her family go and visit Sakura's grandfather, who's been lonely ever since the passing of Sakura's mother. Sakura uses her cards to make a rainbow to remind him of her mother. It's just a really nice and sweet episode.
Card Captors is a pretty fun slice of life show that just so happens to have all that magical girl stuff sprinkled on top, and it's really enjoyable. Keep in mind, me saying it's enjoyable is not to direct praise or condemnation to the English adaptation, but rather it's most likely to say that the good aspects of the show shine through the English adaptation, despite all of the changes made. So now here comes the point where I have to beg for comments because it really does help. Did you watch Card Captors or Card Captor Sakura as a kid? If not, what other English adaptations did you watch as a kid that really have aged poorly? Please comment down below, please like the video, please share this video on other sites. Pumpkin has to eat.
I like these characters. They all have a great dynamic, and even though certain characters can be compartmentalized, organized as different parts of Sakura's life, they overlap and interact with each other in really fun ways. Like when Madison has to find excuses for Sakura when she's out capturing cards, Lee being jealous of Julian and seeing him as a rival for Sakura's affection, and Sakura and Mei Lee having a rivalry that only Mei Lee recognizes. The Cloud Card plot is really just icing on the cake, and that's a good thing. However, Cardcaptors is not a good translation whatsoever. There are many huge and giant and massive and gargantuan and enormous and big and large changes made that are just baffling. And while if you're unaware of these changes, the show still works, there are definitely issues I had without having seen the original show. So it turns out Kids WB decided not to air the show in order. If you want to know just how insanely hacked up the airing order was, just browse the episode list on Wikipedia. It's pretty crazy. Cardcaptors only adapted about 39 of the 70 total episodes, ending airing right as the show's second arc was starting, which is a shame because that's when I started to feel really invested in the story. They even skipped over several early episodes right at the beginning just so they could introduce Lee sooner into the story. And while I'm not sure if they were present in the original versions, sometimes they have to flash back to a card capture to explain where Sakura got a certain ability, because the original episode was just skipped over. Romances involving significant age differences are downplayed, like Sakura's crush on Julian, and the fact that Sakura's dad was her mom's teacher when they started dating, which is very uncomfy. Light and heavy references to characters being gay were also removed, including Madison potentially having a crush on Sakura, and towards the end of the series, Julian reveals to Sakura that he's in love with Tori and implies they're even in a relationship with one another. I mean, I know it was the early 2000s and times were different, but I wish the English adaptation got to the episode where Julian revealed this to Sakura so we could get the ultimate twist that Tori and Julian are actually just cousins. The show was heavily marketed to appeal to boys. From the theme song change to heavily using Lee in the marketing, despite not appearing in every episode, Sakura's voice was changed to be more grown up. It's basically getting as close to Ash Ketchum as possible, and these changes were made to appeal to Kids WB's demographic, which was largely young boys. But fans of the original series were livid with these changes, and rightfully so. I mean, now Card Captor Sakura can be seen easily, so the changes Cardcaptors made, while odd, are less serious now. But in 2001, when this was the only way to see the series without bootlegging or dealing with Miami Mike at DragonCon, it must have been infinitely frustrating.
Now, before Cardcaptors, there were many English adaptations that poorly translated the source material, but Cardcaptors came out during the age of the internet, a time where people could air their grievances in other places besides just a fan magazine that only big f***ing dorks would read.
The demand for a more accurate version got so intense that Pioneer Entertainment, the publisher who had the license to Sakura in the West, released a complete DVD volume set of uncut Cardcaptors with original Japanese audio and English subtitles, which were best sellers for the company. While this is commonplace now, an official release of this kind at the time was incredibly rare.
Cardcaptors, to me, is important in anime history because it seems to have signaled to Western distributors that people really do want to see the original version of these shows, and that releasing a subtitled release is a simple yet viable solution. And although we didn't get an accurate dub of Card Captor Sakura until about 2014, at least we got Kiro. Just a quick reminder, today's video is sponsored by Verve. Head out to vrv.co/Billiam to get a 30-day free trial of Verve Premium. This upcoming week, I'm going to be watching Card Captor Sakura. I've become really curious after watching Cardcaptors because I really enjoyed it, but I wish I was watching the original version. Fortunately for me, I can watch Card Captor Sakura offline using Verve's offline sync feature, which allows you to sync episodes right to your mobile devices. Which is great because I don't know if you heard, but there's a massive hurricane coming my way and I might lose power and I might lose internet. So at least I'll have my anime. I got food, I got water, and I got anime. At least you know where my priorities lie. If I don't get cut offline, I'll definitely be tweeting out some of my thoughts for Card Captor Sakura versus the original version, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, I encourage you to give me your thoughts as well in the threads. I read every single comment, every single tweet on most of the platforms I'm on, so if you want to engage in this conversation with me, check out Card Captor Sakura. So go to vrv.co/Billiam to get a 30-day free trial of Verve Premium. Thank you again to Verve for sponsoring this video. So anyways, thank you for watching this video. If you want to see other stuff of mine, click around the screen, subscribe, and following me on social media and Twitch down in the description below. Other than that, have a good day, and I will see you soon. I think that's it. All right. Fun!